When I was younger, I didn't really know what the Hogyoku was, nor did I really pay any particular attention towards it. In all honesty, I was following Bleach because of the incredibly cool character designs and engaging battles, but when it comes to the first 450 or so chapters of Bleach, the Hogyoku is one of the most vital aspects of the story that needs to be understood, and a lot of misunderstandings or misconceptions about Bleach actually stem from people not understanding what the Hogyoku is. This is mainly because information about the Hogyoku isn't spoon-fed to us, and it is slowly drip-fed in segments which can be easily overlooked. And the issue is further amplified within the anime, when you have all of the elements of the canon story, which includes the Hogyoku, being mixed up with filler non-canon story arcs. So it just makes it very difficult to understand Kubo's true vision if you are experiencing Bleach through the anime. We need to understand the Hogyoku so that we can better appreciate the motives of Sosuke Aizen, and it is actually the Hogyoku that underpins the dynamic that exists between Urahara and Aizen. You see that after the two of them had understood the nature of reality, they had come up with the same conclusion. They had conceived the idea of the Hogyoku, an orb that was introduced to us as having the ability to dissolve the boundary between Shinigami and Hollow, but of course this wasn't the true power of the Hogyoku. In this video, we're going to be talking about how two of the most intelligent individuals within Bleach had come up with the idea that this device called the Hogyoku was a solution to the problems of reality that exist within Bleach. By the end of this video, you're going to understand the motives of both Aizen and Urahara, as well as knowing everything that there is to know about this mysterious device called the Hogyoku, including its true ability. So without further delay, let's dive into the topic of the video. This is my explanation of the Hogyoku. Before the video begins, only 20% of the people who actually watch my content are subscribed to the channel. If you enjoy these videos, then subscribe and stick around for more content just like this. Now let's get back to the topic of the video. Now the first time that we are introduced to the idea of the Hogyoku is in chapter 175, where we learn that after Urahara was exiled from the Soul Society, he had wanted to devise a method to destroy the Hogyoku, but he was unsuccessful. He had come to this decision when he had realized that the Hogyoku was very dangerous, especially if it were to get into the wrong hands. And like I had mentioned at the start of this video, Aizen explains that the Hogyoku has the ability to remove the barrier between Hollows and Shinigami, thus allowing the two races to benefit with the abilities of the other. Out of desperation, Urahara had sealed the Hogyoku within a protective shell, and thanks to this protective shell, he was able to implant it deep within an individual's soul. It is revealed that Urahara had used Rukia by giving her a special Gigai, which would eventually turn her soul into an ordinary human being. It was literally the perfect place to conceal the whereabouts of his Hogyoku, but Aizen was already a few steps ahead of Urahara, and we learned that he had devised this entire situation of Rukia's execution by murdering the Central 46 and impersonating them with his Zanpakuto Gyokasuigetsu. He had orchestrated Rukia's execution so that he could remove the Hogyoku that Urahara had placed within her through one of two methods. The first extraction method was to take advantage of the heat generated by the Hogyoku, which would eventually evaporate the soul of Rukia, and thus leave the Hogyoku that was sealed within her intact. But after the Hogyoku was destroyed by Shunsui and Ukitake, Aizen had learned of a second extraction method through a device that was invented by Urahara, and after he had taken Urahara's Hogyoku from Rukia's soul, he of course had escaped from the Soul Society and into Hueco where he had utilized the Hogyoku in order to create his Arrancar army. During the Arrancar arc, Aizen had brought Orihime to Hueco because of her ability Shunshin Rika. He states that every time the Hogyoku is used, its power deteriorates. So he had brought her to Hueco in order to restore the Hogyoku to its full power. We know that Aizen had brought Orihime to Hueco under a false pretense. He was aware that the Gotei 13 would have assisted Ichigo and the others and would split their fighting power between Hueco and Fate Karakura Town. By lowering the number of captains that he would encounter, he had decided to invade Karakura Town. But it was sometime after he had actually shown the Hogyoku to Orihime and explains the reason why she was brought to Hueco that Aizen had actually combined his Hogyoku with Urahara's Hogyoku, and he had placed the final product into his own body, as it is revealed in chapter 396. Now during Aizen's battle against the various members of the Gotei 13, and including his battle against Isshin, Urahara and Yoruichi combined, they end up pushing him to the very limits of his Shinigami self. And when the Hogyoku realizes this, it assists Aizen as it begins to awaken. This awakening results in a chain change to Aizen's body as he starts to undergo a transformation. As he first enters into this cocoon state, it is at this point that Aizen starts to become one with the Hogyoku, and this is why Genichimaru's attempt at betraying Aizen fails. When he takes the Hogyoku away from Aizen and he escapes, Aizen undergoes another transformation. As he explains, even if the Hogyoku is not present on his body, the Hogyoku is already his. It melts away in Genichimaru's hand and it reappears within Aizen's chest. This must mean that the Hogyoku has found its master, and it is assisting Aizen in manifesting his heart's desire. During Aizen's battle against Dangai Ichigo, the Hogyoku once again assists Aizen by making him undergo yet another transformation. It continues to assist Aizen as he states that he has no intention of losing to a human. After Ichigo utilizes the final Getsuga Tensho and attacks Aizen with Mugetsu, it appears as though he has survived the attack, and he regenerates. In this condition, the Hogyoku no longer recognizes this weakened Aizen as its master. It results in the device actually causing Aizen's Zanpakuto to disintegrate. After Urahara arrives, the Hogyoku then undoes all of the transformations that Aizen had undertaken, returning him back to his original form. In chapter 422, Ichigo suggests that Aizen had changed back to his original form, not because the Hogyoku had rejected him as its master, but rather because Aizen had manifested his loneliness, as he had this grandiose desire to surpass God and rule over reality, but he had nobody to share this vision with. Ichigo elaborates that he had felt loneliness emanating from Aizen's Zanpakuto back when they were fighting. And so he says that Aizen had secretly wished to lose his power so that he could become an ordinary Shinigami in order to alleviate his feelings of loneliness. And in the end, the Hogyoku had manifested his heart's true desire. In most cases, it is difficult to understand what our hearts truly desire, and in some cases, it may take a lifetime to realize what it is. But because the true power of the Hogyoku is to sense the hearts of those around it and to manifest their true desire, it may result in an outcome that the individual was not expecting. This is why Aizen had struggled to accept why the Hogyoku had reversed his transformations. Instead of understanding that it had manifested his true heart's desire, he had assumed that the Hogyoku had rejected him as its master. Now we know that there are only two Hogyoku that exist within the world of Bleach, and the only two people who know how to create one and know any knowledge related to the Hogyoku are Aizen and Urahara. The first Hogyoku was actually invented by Aizen, but after creating his Hogyoku, he had realized that it was incomplete. So he had fed it the souls of countless Shinigami and citizens of Rukongai in an attempt to complete his Hogyoku, but he was unsuccessful at doing so. Later, he had realized that Urahara had created his own Hogyoku, but he realized that his too was also incomplete. And it was at this point that he had devised the idea to steal Urahara's Hogyoku and to combine it with his own. We have more information revealed to us during the Turn Back the Pendulum arc, where we see Aizen experimenting with the true possibilities of the Hogyoku, where he makes several members of the Gotei 13 undergo forced holification. In a desperate attempt to undo Aizen's experimentation, Urahara had utilized his Hogyoku in order to stabilize the souls of all of the Shinigami that were undergoing holification. Although he was unable to reverse the holification, he was the only one who was there to assist them, helping them to gain control of their new hollow powers and to lead new lives within the world of the living. And we know that this group of individuals would come to be known as the Vizards. Urahara was framed by Aizen and he was exiled from the Soul Society. Escaping into the world of the living, he had brought his Hogyoku along with him. When it comes to the composition of the Hogyoku, it is made up of a special substance that can sense what the wielder's true desire is. Like when Urahara had created it, he had desired to destroy or dissolve the boundary between Shinigami and Hollow. He was trying to devise a method to strengthen an ordinary Shinigami. Now, while the Hogyoku was within Rukia, it had actually sensed the feelings of powerlessness that Orihime and Chad were feeling. So the Hogyoku had actually manifested their desire for power through Orihime's unique ability Shunshin Rika and through Chad's right arm of the giant. Now this was apparently alleged by Aizen in chapter 401. The Hogyoku was also exposed to Arrancars. We are aware that naturally it is possible for hollows to become Arrancar, and the difference in power between a hollow and a Arrancar is usually quite small. small, but the Hogyoku was actually able to create artificial Arrancar, and the device was able to unlock the full potential of an Arrancar, resulting in it having a lot more power than if it just transformed through natural means. In chapter 229, we see the birth of the Arrancar Wonderwise. Through Aizen exposing it to the Hogyoku, we learn about how the Hogyoku can be awakened by Aizen. He states that it is a secret that he doubts that even Urahara knows, because Urahara had created the Hogyoku and had sealed it very quickly, and he didn't even think about removing the seal in order to actually touch the Hogyoku and to learn about this secret. Aizen elaborates that when the Hogyoku is in a dormant state and its seal has been removed, and it is joined with someone who possesses twice the spiritual pressure of a normal captain, then for a short time the full power of the Hogyoku is released. So this is a forced manner in which the Hogyoku can be utilized. But we also learn that the Hogyoku has a will of its own. As long as it is within the vicinity of the heart that has a desire, and it is in line with the Hogyoku, then it will manifest that desire through the will of the Hogyoku. This appears to have been the case with Rukia transferring her powers to Ichigo, and having accidentally transferred all of them to him. She was within the vicinity of the Hogyoku. She had transferred all of her powers because she was still feeling guilty about Kain's death, and it was in a similar manner that through the will of the Hogyoku, Urahara was able to help the Vizards. When Aizen had forced the Hogyoku to awaken and had fused himself with it, it had continued to understand the true desires of his heart. It had protected him and had given him high-speed regeneration and had increased his speed and reflexes. The Hogyoku had even changed Aizen's soul and had transformed him into an immortal being. And as we know, the Hogyoku had then manifested the true desire of Aizen's heart, which was to alleviate his loneliness. And this is the reason why it had undone all of his transformations and had returned him back to normal. So we've spoken about the various powers that the Hogyoku possesses, which include fusing with an individual who has twice the power of a Gote 13 captain. The Hogyoku also has the ability of holification, which we had initially thought was the true purpose of this device, but rather it was just a desire of Urahara's, which was manifested when he had invented the Hogyoku. So through this, the Hogyoku can actually break down the barrier between Shinigami and Hollow, and it can make Shinigami undergo holification, and it can turn Hollows into Arrancars, resulting in Shinigami Hollow hybrids, which we can see through examples like the Vizard, or through the various Arrancar that we see within the story, which are Hollows that have gained Shinigami powers. And to wrap this video up, the true power of the Hogyoku is to manifest the heart's desire, whether if this is through forced means or through the will of the Hogyoku itself. So what do all of you think now that we have uncovered everything that there is to know about the Hogyoku? Through understanding this device, it allows us to appreciate the motives of the main antagonist Aizen, as well as understanding the reasoning behind the actions of Kisuke Urahara. And through the Hogyoku, we understand the differing ideals of these two characters, as after Urahara had come to understand the true power of this device, he had desired to seal and destroy it, while contrastingly on the other hand, Aizen had wanted to utilize it to its fullest potential. These are two individuals who had come to the same conclusions of reality, and they had invented exactly the same device, but they differ when it comes to the utilization of the Hogyoku. Aizen had the desire to surpass God, while Urahara, also knowing that there is something fundamentally wrong with reality, decides not to challenge it as he continues with the status quo. And now that we understand the Hogyoku, we can appreciate the similarities and differences that exist between two of the most important characters within Bleach. So what did you think about my explanation? Was there anything about the Hogyoku that you didn't know that you've learnt from watching this video? I would love to read all of your comments about the Hogyoku, especially if you had similar experiences to my own, where you had completely overlooked it when you were younger, but after having re-experienced Bleach after some time, you had come to really appreciate this idea of the Hogyoku. I look forward to reading all of your comments, and once again, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I can't wait to see you in my next Bleach video. If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.